I want to tell you about Martin J. McNalley. And Martin, I know you're watching this video because it's the kind of stuff that you do. If the man is still alive, he's doing something right now. He's got to be about 80 years old. And the last I heard about him, he lived in St. Louis. At least in January of 2017, he lived in St. Louis.
My name is not important, but my story is. I was a government employee for over 30 years. I retired from USP Marion not long ago. The names of all the prison employees have been changed for their safety.
Here's what Martin did. He's a guy that hijacked an airplane in 1972 in St. Louis, and he kept flying back and forth and got about $500,000 in cash. And he told me about this. I think he's the only inmate that would ever completely discuss the crime that sent him to Marion with me. Everybody else was cagey about it, and they didn't know anything. But this Martin McNalley, he knew he was caught. He was sentenced to double life, and he was never going to get out of prison, so why not talk about it? And what he done is he got this $500,000, and they threw it out of the airplane, and he jumped out of the airplane. And he thought that at the time when he hit that slipstream that he was about to die. He thought his eyeballs were going to get ripped out. I mean, he said he just was flung. And he ended up in a field somewhere in Indiana. And he said he had a broken leg, he said, and he eventually escaped. And he thought that he could go back and get the money, but some farmer found it and turned it in. And then to make matters worse, as far as he was concerned, apparently he left a few fingerprints behind, and the FBI figured it out. And because he was a Navy vet, they matched it up, and then they ended up catching him, and he got 2 life sentences for air piracy. The time he was in the bureau, he tried to escape 4 times. So they sent him to Marion because we were supposedly escape-proof. Him and a guy named Garrett Trapnell talked some girl into hijacking an aircraft, a Bell helicopter, right down here at the Williamson County airport, and she ends up flying it right onto the prison grounds to pick up this Trapnell and McNalley. Well, the pilot, he was hijacked. He was captured. He wasn't in on it. It wasn't his fault that he was there. She was holding a gun on him. Well, the gun towers told them that they were going to fire on him if he attempted to take off. So him and the girl got into a fight, and during the struggle, a gun went off, and she died. So really, McNalley is not entirely responsible because this girl is responsible for her own actions, but he put her up to the actions, him and Trapnell, to that eventually ended up in her death. So he very well deserved his 2 life sentences. And he hijacked that flight, American Air 119, on the 23rd of June, 1972. That's another thing about prison. See, is things freeze in prison. They don't progress. If a guy committed a crime and was sentenced to 19, life sentences in 1962, for him it's always like 1962 because he really doesn't get out. So things like this McNalley, he was still like a hippie from 1972. He reminded me of a hippie from 1972. And McNalley came to us because of these escape attempts, and then he attempted to escape while he was with us. That's 5 attempted escapes. He eventually got parole, if you can believe it or not, with 2 life sentences and 5 attempted escapes. So when people say, well, we'll sentence a guy to life, it's not really going to sentence a guy to life. Now, he spent 44 years behind bars for this hijacking. So, it really wasn't worth it. And he survived it. He came through the Supermax security penitentiary and lived to tell the tale on the outside. That's a rarity, and in a way it's a compliment to his intelligence, because the average muscle-headed moron that we got couldn't have possibly convinced anyone to let them loose, but McNalley did. When he was with us, he was constantly studying and doing things. I don't know if he's the most intelligent inmate that I've ever dealt with, but he's certainly one of the most. And as far as I know, the most educated. If I'm not mistaken, he told me that he was either working on or had finished his doctorate degree while he was in prison. So he was a very bright individual, and he was always looking to circumvent our either security or other procedures that we did. He was a slippery one. No wonder they sent him to Marion, because he was a pain in the butt, and Marion was the only people that could really handle the guy. He when we were in G Unit, him and I, he accused me one time of stealing some of his one of his money making schemes that he had going, and I didn't realize this, but later we figured out he was making money on the stock market and things while currently incarcerated. I've never heard of anybody being able to do that before, but this Martin J. McNalley certainly did. It was after I searched his cell that he decided that I took his plan, his scheme. He had some kind of multi-level marketing thing he told me about, and he was going to make lots and lots of money doing it. And at the time, I thought he was just a crackpot, and yeah, you're going to make a lot of money. But he actually did do things like that while incarcerated.
This story and others have never seen the light of day until now. Subscribe to hear more. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. Always remember that I tell you this at personal risk. Just like the Mafia, we have our own code. Talking is forbidden for both groups. They have the witness protection program. I have nothing. When I choose to break my silence, I choose to walk alone forever.